Hi everybody, welcome to another Spectrum Economics video. Today I'm still going to be on my dark side series, and I'm going to be looking at something known as taxation. And there's plenty of good material out there on the internet about taxation. Some of it is quite compelling, especially stuff done by HighImpactFlix. And it talks about how taxation is basically a manipulation and it's a form of theft. And a lot of those things I agree with. I'm going to be presenting it a little bit differently. I look at it in terms of the economist's point of view, but I'm going to be explaining, what taxation is and what it's claimed to do, what it actually does, and why so many people feel that it's very important that they pay tax because of various reasons. I'm going to cover that in a second. So, many of you know or heard of Benjamin Franklin, and he said this: "In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes." And death certainly. We're all going to die at some point in time. Let's come up with some invention where we can live forever. I saw something where someone could actually download themselves and put themselves on a computer, so it might be a way of keeping their brain alive or while their body dies. But let's just assume that death's certain. And taxes, in a way, that's a statement trying to say that it's always going to be tax. We just have to accept that we have to pay tax, and there always will be tax. And it's always dangerous to assume that sort of thing, especially something that's man-made. Death is certain, we can't control that, but taxes, that's something that man has invented. And it is something that definitely does not have to be forever. Things can change. But anyway, it's the whole state of mind, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So taxes, why do we pay taxes? Everybody pays taxes, income tax being the biggest one, I think. It's, whatever you earn, you've got to pay back. There's a fairly low threshold, whatever, but once you get over that, you've got to pay taxes. It's like whenever you buy anything, GST, goods and service tax, you always have to pay tax in one form or another. I don't think anyone can escape it in the current world. So why do we do that? One of the big reasons they push for it is they can build stuff. For example, you have your street lights, you have your energy grids, you got your power, you got your roads, your hospitals, your schools, your dams, and all of that stuff. And all that comes from your taxes. So it's like, okay, they need money to build stuff. Does that sound reasonable? We don't pay any taxes, where would that money come from? But does it have to necessarily be done this way through the use of taxation? Or is there a better way of doing things that doesn't require taxation? It's food for thought. But anyway, how it's generally done is these things are funded through tax. Like some people talk about the private sector, for example. They could get involved and they could build stuff. Or you could have, but it's become a little bit more popular now, is what we call crowdsourcing. It's a tricky one, but I could talk about that in another video, I suppose. But crowdsourcing is something that's become a little bit more popular. That could be an alternative to taxation. So why else do we need to pay tax? And a big one here is, in today's society, is we talk about security, fear. We need to pay taxes so we can have an army, so we can have a police. So, people are not going to steal your stuff because we've got a police force. No taxation, we can't have a police force, can we? We can't have a fire brigade to put out fires or all that sort of stuff. Though there are towns, I think, in America where they actually have volunteer fire brigades and fire people. But anyway. And also another one is terrorism. That's right, terrorism getting a lot of attention, even though, relatively speaking, the number of people that die from terrorist attacks is very, very small. And also, where did these terrorists come from and stuff like that. But it's been given a big push, and so much money has gone into this whole war against terrorism, anti-terrorism. And they're saying we don't have taxes, then we can't fight terrorism. But what's creating the terrorism? And I'm going to have a video on terrorism and the whole reasons behind that. And it's actually quite interesting, really. But if we didn't have taxation, maybe we wouldn't need to prevent terrorism, because there wouldn't be terrorism in the first place. In a sense, your tax dollars are actually creating terrorists. Well, I'll talk about that a bit more, not to confuse you too much on that, because at the moment we're talking about taxation and not necessarily what we're fighting with that taxation, or supposedly fighting with it. Another thing is redistribution of income. That's a fairly big one, especially with income tax. We pay income tax because we earn money. There's unfortunate people out there that don't have work, that don't have homes, don't have any of that, don't have a source of income, they have nowhere to live, and that money supposedly is being redistributed to them through your income tax. And I still don't entirely see how that's working, because I see a lot of people in Brisbane, where I live nowadays anyway, they're on the street, they have nowhere to live, and yet I'm paying all this income tax, and a lot of us are paying a lot of income tax, and it kind of isn't reaching them. And a lot of them, I think, have some sort of mental illness or whatever that is not being treated, which could be. If it's been investigated, and then clearly houses are not being provided for them, or they don't know how to have access to this house. So I have a lot of doubts in terms of how this redistribution of income to the poor is actually taking place. And I see in many other cities as well that there seem to be a lot of poor people for the amount of income tax that we pay. If income tax, the main purpose of income tax is for redistribution of income, then I don't see that happening. And you can just have a look at the statistics as well in terms of increasing income inequality in a lot of different countries. I did a video on that earlier as well, a few months back, in terms of, I think it's the top 10 countries with increasing income inequality. And it's interesting because a lot of them are actually Western countries and all that. A lot of countries where we actually pay a lot of money in tax. And so yeah, I'm not sure how this redistribution is taking place, but that is a strong claim for income tax. You have income tax for that redistribution purposes. And also, where is all this tax coming from? Income tax. I pay quite a bit of income tax. A lot of people I know pay quite a bit of income tax. You're almost up to your 40%. Eventually it goes into income tax, and yet at the same time we have a lot of very large corporations that are not paying any income tax. So looking at figures here from back in 2014, look at these companies, no income tax, and they're earning revenue of billions of dollars. David Jones, 9 Network News Corp, BlueScope, they're all earning all this money, and probably through some clever accounting have managed to avoid paying the tax. So who's paying the tax? It seems to be coming out of your everyday people, your wage-earning people are the ones paying those taxes. And it seems like the ultra-rich are not paying that much. As you can see here, this is a little bit old now, this is based on the US, but in 2009, the 400 richest Americans were only paying 20%. 20%, that is lower than almost all of your middle class. Your middle class are all earning, paying well into 30% on their income tax, and you got the highest, the richest, only paying 20%. So we talk about progressive taxes, which the way it appears structured, because it's based around income. And your highest earning people, your income earners, generally are not your richest people. Not your richest people. It's those that are actually owners, your entrepreneurs and stuff in the very big companies, and your very high earning wage owners that are earning, millions a year. They're the people, and they're somehow avoiding taxation. So it seems like almost money's being transferred the other way. You're not transferring money from the rich to the poor, but it seems like the middle class is doing all the funding of taxation, but yet the economy is structured in favour of the richest classes, so it's hardly redistributing income. Okay, so is taxation a form of legalized theft? And this is an interesting debate, and I mentioned about HighImpactFlix. They push very strongly that is the case, and I would tend to agree with them in the sense that who decided that we have to pay tax? There's never been a vote on it as far as I know. We just pay tax because it's accepted that that's what you do. And then the money goes to your government that can pretty much do whatever they like with it. Basically, we'll talk about democracy and stuff, as I've mentioned in the video before, which doesn't really exist in any country. So it's really the government takes your money and does whatever they like with it, and promote it in such a way that it looks like they're doing something good. So yeah, taxation can be considered a form of legalized theft, simply because you did not consent to it. And I've got a quote here from Eleanor Roosevelt: "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." But basically, by doing nothing, we are kind of saying, yeah, it's okay because we've accepted taxation as something that's always happened and something that always will happen. We don't fight it simply because we just think it's part of life. That's what Benjamin Franklin said: death and taxes, the only things that are certain in life. But that is just a mentality. Does it have to be that way, or is there an alternative where we can actually have power over where our money is spent? Otherwise, we're just giving money to the government, who can pretty much do what they like as long as they can make it sound reasonable, and as long as there's no opposition. As you can see from United Kingdom, no opposition, Australia, no opposition, United States, pretty much no opposition, all the parties are all within each other, that your money is just going to go wherever it likes without being contested. And taxation is a way of doing that. Another thing about taxation as well is that you might be working, but you're only bringing back a relatively small amount of that money. Whether you're bringing back, 60-70% of that income. And that stops you from saving. I think a lot of that money could go into your own savings and eventually could get you out of working as many hours as you do. There's a lot of other reasons as well why we're being kept chained to our jobs. So taxation is just one of them. And materialism is another one I'll be talking about as well. It keeps us, and also debt and all of that sort of stuff keeps us tied to our jobs. But yeah, taxation is just another one of those. It's sort of a spectrum of different things that keeps us tied to our jobs and restricting us from freedom. In a sense, it is self-inflicted slavery, and taxation just being one of those inputs into that. I can actually do another video on that as well, mention various points. There's so much you can talk about, isn't there, in terms of the bad side of economics. But yeah, in many ways we are sort of voluntary slaves. I know it sounds a bit of a contradiction, but it's what we put ourselves in, and if we're not fighting back, and that's what it looks like. Another one that I'm going to do a video I'm going to talk about is cost-benefit analysis, and this is used to justify. So I'm going to talk about now how taxation is justified. So you talk about those big projects. So government would do some sort of analysis. You get hire people, experts and stuff like that, and they'll come back and say, yes, this is good use of your money because you are benefiting more than what it's costing you. In terms of tax dollars, it costs you, let's say, 20 million. In terms of what gets back to you in all its various forms, it could be like 50 million. It's like, wow, okay. And we have what we call benefit cost ratio, meaning you're getting 2.5 times what's going out. Or you could say in terms of net effect, you gain 30 million. So then we take 20 million from you and we're giving you back 50 million. Because of taxation, that sounds really good, doesn't it? Well, it doesn't necessarily come back to you in that form. And as I'll talk about in the cost-benefit analysis video, the dark side of that in terms of it actually goes elsewhere and doesn't really come back to you, in most cases anyway. There are actually some genuine projects that genuinely benefit people, but we're seeing few and fewer of those around anyway. So what else it comes back to? So where does this money go to? So who is the key benefits out of these projects? And like I said, it gets promoted as very, very generally, everybody more or less benefits, but often areas are targeted. And that's like the case we have elections and stuff. Often particular areas will be targeted, more money will be spent there, simply because it's, I think, what we call a marginal seat, so pushing a particular electorate. So a lot of money goes there and it's being taken out of other safer areas, you might say, where you've got a candidate there isn't much of a challenge, put it that way. Or, well, we want to call it, presumably, it's just basically moving the deck chairs around. But anyway, so who really benefits out of it? And a lot of times, if you really break it down, you find that actually a lot of the benefits of this expenditure actually goes to the big companies and the private sector. And a lot of it is in terms of commercial benefits, in terms of them efficiency in operating and transporting their freight and things like that. Efficiency in terms of getting workers from place to place. But not much of it relates back to us. And even with hospitals, you're building more and more hospitals. That benefits the healthcare. It benefits the pharmaceutical companies. They've got more places where they can push their drugs. You're going to hire more doctors who can give out more stuff, or sell, shall I say. Well, yeah, I guess they are. They're selling drugs and all that, aren't they? So a lot of it keeps coming back. And also the construction of all these projects, it lands in the hands of the big companies and also the banks that are lending the money. And a lot of it comes back to the banks as well. And another thing that is used and supports taxation, and that is fear. Fear-mongering. We need your money so we can protect you. That's what I mentioned before about terrorism and stuff like that. It's fear. It doesn't have to be terrorism. It could be about anything. We need your money because we've got to do something, because we're trying to protect you. So we need more police. Have lots and lots more police. Why? Because they're here to protect you. And they have to create a danger of some sort, whether, they're going to focus on a particular crime or element of crime. And this will get pushed around in newspapers, even though there's only a few of these crimes being committed. But as long as they get headlines on that, it brings attention to it. And terrorism being a big one, in the sense that any terrorist act gets in the newspaper, the news, on the internet, it's all over the place. Even if 2 or 3 people died because of that terrorist incident, it gets pushed around and people become very aware, and it makes it look like it's something that's happening all the time. And therefore people are afraid. And when people are afraid, they want to be protected, and they're more likely to give their money. And that is the whole fear-mongering aspect to it. Another thing as well that is done very much in Australia is it's kind of painted as in the government is doing something for you. They're giving you something. You know, like for example, we're building a new school. The government are building this school for you and for your kids. So they're giving you something. They're doing something for you. It's like they're getting their money and they're building something out of the kindness of their hearts so that your kids can have a great education. Or you've got a hospital, so you've got this new clinic set up so it can help your old dodgy knee out there, you know? Like, wow, we're doing all of this for you, and it's, but wait a minute, whose money is that? It's, you know, we're spending 100 million here, 200 million there, 300 million there, 4 billion here. It's like, wow, 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 we're so generous, but do you remember, and people forget that, the government has no money. That is your money, taken mostly through taxation and given back to you in these forms. So try not to forget that the government aren't giving you anything. It's already yours. It's not some great gift. It's something that has to be there in mind. So let's just go back again. So remember, we talked about death and taxes. As long as people believe that taxation is something that's natural and will always occur, there's going to be less people contesting it. And that takes us to the end of this video. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll have more videos like this, so if you liked it, remember to click the like button, and also remember to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more what I'm calling dark side economics, and we'll have some other stuff in there as well. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about healthcare. I'm going to talk about another one on war. I'm going to go into more details about cost-benefit analysis and that side of things. So hit the subscribe button, as well as I've got several other videos relating to things like micro, macro, game theory, and vegan economics. A lot of economic stuff out there, and I'll continue to keep pushing out these videos. But thank you for watching today, and I'll see you soon.